So this is the Happy House Hunters. This is our free meetup that we do once a month. And we're going through the 6 F's of real estate. So we're going through finding real estate, and then how to fund the real estate, how to fix it, then how to flip it, how to fill it, and finally, what is your freedom number in real estate? We all have a freedom number that's really lower than what you might think. The number of properties that you need to basically stop punching the time clock from a 9 to 5. And so we have with us tonight, we have Kurt and Elizabeth, and we'll get you guys to unmute there. And I want them to tell you a little bit about their background and their story before they launch into their presentation. Unless, of course, that's part of your presentation, then you can save it for the presentation. But they have quite an interesting story, and I think you're really going to enjoy what they have to say this evening. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kurt and Elizabeth, and I've already marked the security here on my side where you guys can share your screen. Now, if you have any questions, I'm going to ask everyone else to mute in the meantime. So if you have any noise in the background, it won't interfere with the actual recording. And if you have any questions, simply put your questions in the chat box. So with that, here is Kurt and Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate it. It's always a joy to be able to talk real estate, period. But we actually met Kathy at a meetup that we run here in Lancaster. And she came down, and it was a joy to be able to talk with her, and even to have her just kind of, kick up conversations and share her wisdom with a lot of us. And so we really just appreciated her, and love the fact that she put something like this together. It's wonderful, because I know for us, so just real quick, and we got a ton of stuff to give you guys in kind of a short period of time, so I won't land here long. But I was actually a UPS driver for 12 years. I don't know if any delivery drivers are in here or not, but it's a tough job, right? But it's one of those that's kind of like the golden handcuffs. Some of you may have the same deal where they pay you well enough that it's hard to leave, right? But at the same time, for me, working at UPS, there was nothing wrong with it. I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed the pace of it. But it was kind of like wearing somebody else's shoes. It just didn't fit me. It didn't fit what our goal was as a family. And so we wanted to, we have 6 children. I should say that. We didn't at the time.
You
we
didn't
have them all at once. We had them one at a time. Thank God. But we have 6 children, and I wanted to spend more time with children. I wanted to spend more time at home. I had a son who was 7 years old, who was just driven to be by my side everywhere I went. So some of you may have a little boy like that, or a son like that, or a daughter. But he was a huge motivation for me, because he always wanted to be in my hip pocket. And I worked all the time. And so I would get home about 7:30 every night, and then I'd be gone the next day. And so we just wanted different results for our lives. So I bought our first rental about 17 years ago. I don't know. I lose count because every year adds one. But we bought our first duplex, lived in half of it, and rented out the other side. Totally on I don't want to say it was by accident, but our pastor, in a passing comment, said, "Hey, when my wife and I got started, we bought a duplex. You guys should do that." And we're like, "Well, he's our pastor. That seems like a good idea." And so we did.
No clue
what we were doing. Tons of mistakes. I'll spare you the horror stories, because there's many, of how terrible of a landlord I was.
We had rotting onions in it and no back door. We washed our dishes in the bathtub. Like, it was bad. It was bad. And we learned a lot.
Yeah. So anyway, but that's when we got a taste of being in real estate, because we got rent most months. During that season, most months we got rent, not every month. But receiving that payment, we had entered into a season of our life when we started to have children. I brought Elizabeth home from her job, and I had 2 part-time jobs to try and make ends meet, right? I'm sure all of you have probably been in similar places in your life where you're just trying to make ends meet. Huge transition for us. She was making most of the money at the time. So I don't know that my plan was bulletproof going into that. That's for sure.
We didn't have a plan.
Yeah, we didn't really have one. But anyway, that rent coming in totally transferred because we were able, that paid our mortgage and the expenses for the property and a little extra. And if not for that, I don't know how we would have made it. And then we were hooked. From that point on, we just added properties. And then 4 years ago, this month, 4 years ago this month, because of real estate, I was able to leave my job at UPS, and now you call it full time, right? Kathy and I, we kind of laughed about this at the meetup, but full time real estate investor. But it's what we do. It's our primary source of income, and so it's allowed us the freedom to make some different choices in our lives, and it's made a tremendous amount of difference. It's actually made all the difference in the dynamics of our family, and really the burden. Sure, there's another burden of you running your own business, right? You're running your own real estate business. That there is part of that, but not having to rely on a company that could release me if I make a mistake, that it's going to decide whether they're going to be a raise or not, or they're going to lay me off, or determine when I get home at night. Like that wasn't the money for me. It was, they told me when I could get home and when my day ended, and
So how many of you, just as a raise of hands until we switch over to our Prezi, how many of you guys do real estate full time, one or the other or both, or are transitioning that way? Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's awesome that many of you are in that vein, so that we can really speak to that, because we know it's not an easy road. When he left UPS, I was expecting baby number 6. Let's just say UPS benefits would have been nice for that delivery, but we walked away before we had the baby. And so it's never an easy road. We're not going to sugarcoat this. Our presentation obviously is from the School of Hard Knocks. We've done a lot of things the wrong way, and we're going to be very authentic to tell you our expensive mistakes as well. Filling vacancies is a huge deal, and it's a huge part of creating a profitable real estate business. So my background was actually an insurance agent. I'm a licensed claims adjuster, and I also worked for many years as a financial coach. So that is my professional background, but I'm also a homeschool mom of 6. So those two parts of my life really do come into play when I fill vacancies. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. So go ahead. Do you want to?
Yeah. So anyway, that's just a little bit about us, but we're going to jump into this because we obviously have a lot to cover in a short period of time. So just real quick, how many of you, or is there anyone who has a vacancy they're dealing with right now, or one that is imminent, that's coming up? You've gotten 30 days notice or whatever. Okay, Kathy. We do. We have one.
We have
okay.
One. All right, Chris. Andora's got one coming.
Okay. So hopefully some of what we share with you will help. And also we're going to try and leave some time, if time allows, for some questions from Q&A and stuff. Because I don't want to say this is the hardest time to fill an open unit.
It's unique.
But it's definitely unique. It has its own challenges with the holidays coming up. But it seems like every year, somehow, we could go a whole year with very few vacancies and somebody moves out around Christmas time. It's like, why does that keep happening? But anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into this. I'm going to screen share.
Let us know. Can you give us a wave if you can see?
Kathy, can you see it? Because I got you on the side. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
All right, filling vacancies. So as we're filling vacancies, we're thinking of the long term of having residents for long term. Now I want to talk about strategy here in the beginning before we get into this, but
I want to see, can we move that over? So we can
what do you want to, you want to do this?
Oh, no.
No, you don't want me to do that.
Sorry,
we're getting
our tech. I just wanted to do the grid so we can see people's reactions.
Okay,
we're good.
Okay, here we go. All right, we're just gonna roll here. Okay, so kind of going into this, one of the first things you want to do is really identify what the goal is for your business, and I know Kathy hits this, and she does a great job because she's even discussed with us a little bit how she does this about creating her freedom number and all that. So I'm not going to jump into that too much because you guys are on here because you already have a vision for what you want to accomplish, right? So I'm not going to land there too long. But it's important to have a goal for vacancies, especially because this is probably where the bulk of the work comes in. When it comes to investing in real estate, I've never heard, or I've never had a landlord sell a property that told me, man, both tenants pay on time, they keep the place tidy, the property gives me no problems, I just figured I'd just sell. I've never had that. I mean, and I'm going to sell it for cheap, right? It's not going to happen. Every property, pretty much, know that as real estate investors, where we make our money is really taking on other people's problems. And I have many people that I know that are investors say, I won't buy a property unless it's vacant. And that's fantastic news for us because that eliminates a lot of opportunities. And so know that if you can nail this down and get really good at filling vacancies, then it lifts the lid on your business because you can buy a property that is filled with perhaps residents that are not ideal, that you maybe don't want to have there long term. And so you've got some imminent vacancies coming on. But if you dial this in and you know how to deal with that situation, then you're not going to be scared off by, we joke and call them rogue residents, right? They just do whatever they want. They've kind of not had any training, or they've not been
trained.
Yeah, and you know that you're bringing in residents that the owner has already said they tell you their whole life story of these residents and all the bad things about them. So, all right. So know and be confident in your strategy. Know what your strategy is moving, whether it's long-term or student housing, short-term, those are all different things. So you have to, if you do short-term rentals, obviously take what we say with a grain of salt, and you'll have to kind of piece that together because we're talking more for the long-term. Know who your ideal resident is. Residents are the asset to the property, right? The property is not an asset until it's filled, assuming it's a rental property. And so we want to treat them in such a way that they are the ones that make that building an asset for us. And so know your ideal resident. Who do you want to have in there? And also be honest with the type of property that you have. Example, you have a multifamily, a single family, an A class, a D class property, whatever the case may be. And the reason I say that is because typically, not always, but typically in a single family house, you're going to have residents that are going to set in roots a little bit longer. And so knowing that, know what kind of resident, if you have somebody that just needs a transition place and they say, hey, I only need 6 months and I'm going to look for a house, they may not be the best option for your single family house. Maybe you have a 3-bedroom, duplex, 2-3 bedrooms or something. And that would be perfect because those multifamilies tend to be just a little more transient than your single family houses. And then obviously with your A class and your D class, just know your property, and that'll help you also determine who your ideal resident is for that property. And we really do that, guys. That almost sounds craziness, but we actually do that. Like you can't what do they call it? Steer. You can't steer residents. Okay. That's no. Housing. You can't steer. And what steering means is you can't refer them to a certain property that you want them to stay in.
Okay, so describe what is a class versus a D class type of property. Can you just give us like a quick rundown?
Yeah, so an A class property would be something that has like around here, it would be here in Lancaster, would be you have all the amenities. An A class property, you might have a workout facility. You've got a private swimming pool, jacuzzi area, whatever. It's a posh. It's a really nice property.
Yeah.
A D class is typically a war zone. It doesn't have to be a war zone, but that's typically how it's described. Is D class is a place that
boarded up every other house.
Yeah, every other house may be in disrepair. It's just a rough neighborhood.
So basically, that's best and worst, and you probably have something in the middle.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Probably B or C.
Hopefully, you have something in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta click on this.
There
There we go. And then,
So when you're doing market research and seeing the competition, saying, is this an A class, B, probably a B or a C class, right? That's what we do. We do B and C class rentals. Your market research is going to be pivotal to identifying your ideal client. And guys, everything comes back to with market research, understanding the profit margins that you want to achieve, the market rent you want to achieve. We price ours just under market and we over deliver. And that comes back to our last point here, that success is always about solid leadership. So if you're taking notes, take your pen and write leadership across the top of your paper. No lie, if you don't remember anything else about this, please remember that filling vacant units, creating a profit, is always about leadership. You are in charge and you are leading this process. So having that success in this, wouldn't you say, is definitely about leadership?
yeah. So we're always wanting to be in charge of the whole process. We want to, so the resident is never, like they say, the customer's always right?
No.
We can control the situation. You always want to have some control over the situation. As soon as things go sideways and go to a tailspin, you get in trouble. So,
and real quick, just a lot of people, and this is up for debate, obviously, see their residents, we call them residents instead of tenants. You'll notice the difference in terminology because we value our residents not as a customer, not as somebody that we are subservient to. We have to serve their every whim, but we're also not domineering. Our attitude is one of mutual respect. It's more of, if you think about a team member, they're in charge of a significant asset. And so we really instill in them a sense of pride. They're chosen. They have personal responsibility and expectations, and they can trust and depend on us. So you'll notice a little bit of different terminology as we go throughout the presentation. So we do use, for us, we are professional housing providers. We do not use the word landlord. It's antiquated and it has negative connotations. We do not use the word tenant because that is also antiquated. Obviously, those are legal terms in the Ohio Vice Code. So we know the legal terms.
So it'll be in your lease.
It'll be in your lease. Yeah, because it's Ohio Vice Code. But we, to our residents, and to each other, we speak of them as residents, as people worthy of dignity and respect and responsibility. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So systems equals speed. The most expensive part of this business is a vacant unit. It's a vacant unit. That is the most expensive part of this business. So the quicker that you can fill a unit with a quality resident, then the more profitable your business will be. And this in and of itself, this systems part, and that's kind of a buzzword. So I hesitated even using the word system. I was trying to think, like I was going to get on a thesaurus and see, just a different word, but systems is what I came up with because it really just describes it. But you want to create a best practices. And one of the best ways to create that is is to have a mentor, for one. I mean, you guys have Kathy on here, to have a mentor that can kind of share with you some of the things she does, because she's obviously been doing this a long time. So that we have mentors that we have had as well.
And we mentor other people.
And we mentor others.
It's a great process.
But another way that you can do that is to document everything that you do. So when you do something and you sometimes, so I know for me personally, I'm the one that tends to just fly by the seat of my pants, whereas my wife is the planner. And a lot of times there's certain, like one of the
I see
couple,
Tammy smiling.
Yeah.
She's like, maybe that might be at your house too.
Yeah. So for me, I'll handle a situation 2 years later or a year later, I'll have the same situation and I'll have not the foggiest idea of how I handled that situation. I just deal with it again, somehow, some way. And so this is not necessarily the right way to do it.
Documented notes. I have date time, who I talked to, like to the second, like, oh yeah.
So, and thank God, I know, right? So I'm just seeing some of your reactions. It's funny. So if one of you, especially if there's someone, if it's you or someone that is in your business or a spouse or a child
or
that is
adult
really
child.
system of
Yeah.
whatever, you want to document what you do so that you don't have to think about it. So that you just know the certain response. This just speeds it up and actually makes your business more profitable just by doing this, because it takes so much less time. And if you're not focusing all that mental energy and emotional energy into this one resident issue, then you can focus it on growing your business instead.
Right.
And there really is an either or. I know that when we get caught up in certain situations, that it takes our attention off of growth and it puts us on that situation. So as much as you can document it. And there's two ways you can leverage time as well. I know some of you have full-time jobs right now and you're building this business with a full-time job. That was me as well.
It was hard.
It was hard. And there is a balancing act, and there are seasons where you've got to drop the hammer, right? You guys know there's seasons where you got to hammer down and you don't get to do some of the things that you want because you're building a business. And you're seeing other folks that aren't building a business. You're like, man, I could be
on my couch,
whatever,
on the beach, whatever.
Keep going, you'll get there. But two ways to leverage your time is technology or people, right? You guys have heard this probably before. You can either invest in technology or invest in people. And this, I'm not going to get into that for time, but just the one thing that that I fortunately was taught by another mentor was there's a timing for both, because I would see the kind of the shiny, shiny syndrome or whatever, and I would say, "Ooh, look at this technology! Like I'm going to invest in this because this will really, whatever." Da 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 da. And I was just all amped up and excited about it. And fortunately, someone said, "Whoa, hold the brakes there, Lone. So, just chill out here. Wait till you get to the point to where you could actually use that." And so evaluate all of those things, but know that those two are huge to move you forward.
And in terms of technology, I just want to jump in real quick to say there are a lot of new tech tools, especially this year due to COVID. They are marketing hard to new investors. They are marketing hard to people that are having vacancies due to COVID. And the technology is great, but it is something that is only meant to mimic what you already do in your business. It cannot replace a solid business plan for filling vacancies. And I've seen marketing that borders on that. It's disingenuous and dishonest. So please be very discerning about technology, because they are preying on new investors, thinking that there is a tech system, a one-size-fits-all system that will solve any vacancy problem. And we are all grown-ups. We know that is not the case. So we actually do a mix of technology and people. We do hire a virtual assistant who helps us right now with this process. But at the same time, we are still very involved in our own placing our residents. Like he said, we have a vacancy right now. I was just there on site today. So we're right in the middle of it with you.
Yeah. And if you're going to, if it's really one or the other, especially if you have a job, this is just a thought for you to kind of bounce around your brain. I would recommend a VA,
a virtual assistant.
A virtual assistant. If you can, now you can get on a Fiverr.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk, if you've got somebody that a friend that maybe works from home or is
looking for a part-time
gig that will be willing to take phone calls for you,
yeah.
Or something like that, to just free up your time, because you can usually pay pretty minimal for a virtual assistant, and it'll save you a bundle of money instead of just buying the technology. So that would be my recommendation.
So when you have a vacant unit, you're ready to start thinking about attracting your ideal resident. You've gone through your vision, you need systems, and you really recommend branding with website. I love Squarespace. There are tons of free websites. I'm going to go really fast through this because we want to leave time for Q&A, but Squarespace does have a cost to it. Wix, Weebly, and WordPress are so far inferior to what you can do with Squarespace as a real estate investor. I highly recommend it. Very user friendly. And what you want to do with your website is be able to attract residents that are going to be a good fit for your property and a good fit for the vision of your company. You want good citizens. Write that down. Good citizen residents. That means they are willing to work with you. They are going to be a good steward of the property. Now, property management is thrown around in real estate circles, and I really like that term because it's really separated into two parts. Property caretaking is one part where you're taking care of the property, and resident training is the other part. So you're not a manager per se. You are a caretaker of the property, or hopefully you have some help, maybe a handyman. And your property caretaking should match your resident. So it should be something that is congruent. Your property, your caretaking systems should support your resident so that they feel like and build that credibility, that trust with your company and with your brand. This picture, you can see this is actually our vacant unit. It's a 1-bedroom upstairs flat in a quad. And we have found with our branding, you can see the cute little plants. Any plant people on the call? Do you love plants? Yes, I see Dawn. She's like, yes. Oh, Derek, you're a plant person too. Awesome. We have found that plant people actually are very good residents. Plant people is not a protected class, okay? If you kill plants, it's all right. There's no offense, right? But our branding is to attract people who like natural light. That's what's in this upstairs flat. People who take care of plants keep their homes better. I am not super great with plants, but my son is, so he grows these and I love them. So we do the branding to be consistent. And when they walk in, they look and gosh, look there, the same thing they saw online is the same thing that is actually there when Kurt does the showings or I do the showings. So your property caretaking should match and be consistent from the moment they hear about your company, which right now should be online. So you want to automate every step as much as possible, but retain those unique personal touches. So automation means when they first hear about our company, whether it's on Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, Cozy, we syndicate it through realtor.com, they all come to one place, and that's our website. And when they go on our website, it is a consistent brand. Even the color schemes that we use on our website match the color schemes in our units. So when they walk in, they feel like they've already been in that space. They already feel familiar and it feels like home. That's what you want to convey to your people, because especially this year in COVID, with everything that's been going on, people want a peaceful haven. They are looking for a place that they can feel safe and relax. So part of what we do in the branding is training. And I love this picture that I have for the training. It says, do more, you can win if you want. There's an attitude that you want to convey in everything that you do as you are filling your vacancy. You want people to really feel like you're listening to them. Now, you don't need, now put a little star next to this, right? You don't need to actually take time to listen to every prospective resident. That is exhausting. Please don't do that for your emotional health, right? How you can make them feel heard and listened to is through the website branding and copy that you can create. So on our application, we have an application online. It gives them the opportunity to say, what do you ask them? What would you like? Tell me about your situation. How can we help you transition from out of state? They feel listened to, and you didn't have to do the listening. You take the form from the website, it auto feeds into a Google sheet, and you can quickly scan through it. You don't have to take an hour and hear their sob story. You want to reiterate your values in your branding, in everything that you do. You want to set high expectations. All of our residents are top notch. All of our residents are high caliber. Even if you're in a C-class neighborhood, give them A-class expectations. People will rise to your occasion. If you say and are negative towards, previous residents or, the neighborhood, or if you're speaking negativity, guess what? You're going to get that 100 times back. We all know that. We don't like that from our employers. We don't like that from people around us. So reiterate your values and always be speaking positively, assigning, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
And also, you can do this at the showing as well,
yeah.
especially if, like a previous resident. If you do this right, you're gonna have a lot more good residents than bad ones, and that's the goal, right? And so most of our residents leave our units pristine. I mean, they're usually clean. I mean, we got to come in and touch up paint and fill some, whatever. We got to do some small little things, but it's clean. And so we show it immediately. I mean,
only when it's clean.
Only when it's clean. Yeah. But and you can also show units while they're occupied. Tread lightly on that.
With COVID, be very, very
tread lightly on that for sure right now. But you could definitely get in there if you know that they're doing a good job in keeping it clean. But we tell our we tell the people that we're taking through the property, we say the previous folks left it like this, like didn't they do it? Didn't they do a great job? Look at how and this is normal.
Yeah.
I mean, we just say that, like, we're just building that expectation now. And but anyway, it's just speaking to what Elizabeth was saying, is just speaking positive. Like, we always want to speak the expectations that we want.
Respect and responsibility is huge. So like when a resident leaves, a lot of times it's because they've got a dream job, they got married, they had a baby, it's something great. And we want our residents to feel when they are leaving that same level of care, because that spreads. When we're showing the units, we can honestly say, hey, our resident took, this looks like Pinterest worthy stuff. And they do. And because we've spoken that into them, then the next resident I walked into, we just placed a single dad. I walked in and he had the same decor and same layout as the previous girl who had it looking like Pinterest. He's a single dad with his own business, blue collar, walked in, it was spotless. And he was attracted to the fact that this unit was easy to clean and durable for his boys. And we set that expectation of personal responsibility from the get-go. We want to initiate in our resident training. We actually have a system. It's written down sequential, a new resident pathway, but we initiate and are proactive with that onboarding. Please do not expect people to know how to take care of your asset. Your building, and this is any house, any apartment, any residence, is new to them. And you have to understand, in our culture, adults have not been trained. Can I get an amen that the adults do not know basic adult skills, right? And there's no judgment. There's no judgment. They don't teach it in school. God only knows what they're teaching in school, but they certainly aren't teaching to change their furnace filters. I didn't know. I had no clue that you had to change a furnace filter, right? So these are things that you have to initiate, be proactive, be patient. Be patient. They'll be willing to learn if you are patient. If you get frustrated and snarky, they're going to shut you down. And I know no one on this call would ever do that, but it's tempting sometimes, the things that they don't know how to do. So you never want to forget about a resident. We have what we call Thank You Thursday. We send thank you notes. This is partially because we have a lot of young residents, but it's also great for older residents and in between to really send appreciative notes to them. This is like, for example, we had residents that have taken extra good care of the lawn, and we just sent a thank you note. If they paid early, like they paid on the 23rd this month, which is exceptionally early, and I know that they've had a new job, they've struggled
I think it's just Kurt and Elizabeth that are frozen. We can still see Dawn bobbing around.
Yeah, I think they lost connection.
Yeah, I think maybe they did. I think maybe they lost the connection. So we'll see if they come back on. And it was so good. That was good stuff.
Kathy, they're amazing. They remind me of you.
Well, thank you.
Their style, and they like uniformity, consistency, respect for your residents. They are so like you. Your properties, I love it. They're great.
Yes, yes. We'll just hang in here and hope. Yep, I see Kurt coming back on here.
We're
There
back.
you are.
Lancaster, boy, they're in a gold. Yay.
We lost you for a moment. Do you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what
Perfect.
happened. But
Yeah. Did you guys have to sign back on, or did you just automatically come back
It
on?
just came back on. It's the weirdest thing.
Your screen froze for a moment and then you disappeared and now you're back. So, but it did bump you out of sharing your screen. And so if you guys want to share your screen again, but no harm done. We're following you. Everyone is excited. We're loving the information.
Awesome. Thank
cool.
you.
Well, let's
try this again. All right.
Okay,
Presentation mode.
Yep.
Okay. So we were talking about training our residents. And no, we already did that.
We already went through this.
Okay. We're
There we
on personal responsibility. So we never forget about a resident. We always want to speak personal responsibility into them. Let's go ahead and keep trucking because we've got a couple more slides here for you.
Yep.
So we want to retain our residents. Once you have filled the vacancy, training is ongoing. So you want to train and retain them if at all possible. As you're filling your vacancy, your focus is on retaining them for the long term. So things like a welcome card. We do a gift card to a local coffee shop, welcoming them to the neighborhood. You want to retain that hard-earned resident that you've just gone through screening, you've done your background and credit check. I mean, these are all things that are super basic. I know you guys already know all of that. But we found that the high percentage of follow-up, if you follow up, you are 1,000 times more likely to retain your good resident that you worked hard to place. And that will put you 10 times above a normal property owner, because you're going to continue training them that you are trustworthy. With your checklists, when you're retaining them, you're onboarding them, they're moving in, understand that it's stressful. So you want to have a desired outcome. So for example, if you want them to not scratch up the floors, you need to remind them the morning of moving, and don't do it in a condescending way. Just do it in an understanding way. Give them a link to Amazon for the little furniture movers. Do whatever it takes to affirm them as a reasonable adult. Don't talk down to them. Even if they are a younger person, really speak that maturity into them. And always be asking for feedback as far as keeping those communication lines open. You're not looking for somebody to complain. I will say in our showings, we are able to retain residents because it actually starts with showings. And if you're showing the unit and there is someone who is complaining, that is not a protected fair housing class. Eliminate them immediately. If they complain and whine and fuss, that is not a grown-up mature adult. We do not rent to people who are not grown-up mature adults. And you can put that in big letters and circle it, because if they complain at the showing, you will not retain. That's my little rhyme. Sorry, I have kids, so you end up with rhymes. So if they complain, you don't retain, and you need to track your vacancies, the time of year, the type of unit. Just always be looking for that feedback. And here's a list of the technology we use to retain our residents. I think we probably forgot to tell you we have 25 units, and we have a mix of single family, multifamily. We do not do commercial. So we use Cozy, we use Google Voice, Squarespace, Neat, Google Sheets, all of which are low cost or free. We are transitioning and looking as we expand to doing some more property management software, but really up until this point, we haven't needed it. So you want to always be able to repeat and systematize and use those checklists. We like to use Trello as a tech tool. Highly recommend. It's my second brain. Guys, I love Trello. It is like a dream come true. Please play around with it. It is the best thing ever.
It's free.
It's free. And it helps you to keep consistent for fair housing. Never before have we seen such a hostile time for people who are professional housing providers. So you need to be fair housing compliant, and checklists are your very best friend. Now we're going to talk real quick about 4 types of residents. So
Yeah, so we're gonna. This is probably.
I'm on mute, babe. You can talk to me, and my video is stopped because I'm typing.
Oh, okay. We'll keep going.
What was that? What happened?
I think her thing.
Oh, I was apologizing for not being on mute to my husband. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So yeah, we're kind of winding down. It might feel a little bit like taking a drink from a fire hose, like, and we weren't able to really dial in on a lot of these things. And so we want to leave time here for Q&A because we got about 15 minutes, but we're gonna wind this down real quick. So you're gonna run into have 4 types of residents, and all of us have experienced one or all of these 4. And if you haven't yet, don't worry.
You will.
You will. It's just the way of it. You can screen the best you possibly can. And I tell you, a lot of really wonderful people come through your business. But every once in a while, sometimes you'll have a lot of inherited residents. Honestly, those are the ones that are the hardest ones. The ones that you place, you can kind of set the tone for. But your first type of resident is your good citizen, pays rent on time. This is the one that no property owner, no landlord ever gets rid of. They're not going to sell the property if it's filled with just beautiful people that pay their rent early. It's not going to happen.
Now, this can be a progression, and especially with COVID, we want you to watch for these symptoms, right? A good citizen can quickly become other types of residents and transform. And you don't want to do that. You can really help them when they hit the second point of being a good citizen, but they're not paying rent on time or at all, or you're getting calls from the utility department and that they are not paying their utilities. This is ding, 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 warning. Your good citizen is about to digress. So you want to be able to have a plan in place for when that good citizen is not paying rent on time. We do not do grace periods. There's a couple of reasons why. We are very serious about it, and we are very clear up front. Rent is due on the 1st. Day number 2, on the 2nd, they get a 10% late fee. That is a serious amount of late fee. And the reason being, this is a big red stop sign, a warning for them that we do, and we are very clear in the lease signing, Kurt does the lease signings, we do not want their late fee. We want them to understand and plan ahead. And we provide other ways and things that we do to help them learn how to budget for this particular property. But we don't want that late fee because we want them to be able to continue to pay on time or early. That's the set standard.
Yeah, and the way that you set that up with the lease, just real quick, is just by telling them, listen, if we all can forget, you could forget to pay rent on the 1st, or something could come up, life throws you a curveball. It happens to all of us. We don't want you to feel like you have to explain yourself. We don't want you to feel like you have to call us and explain what happened. Yeah. I said, and I always joke with them, you don't want to, and we don't want to hear it, right? We all laugh. And so I just let them know. So on the 2nd, we're not going to hound you. We're not going to come knock on your door. Nothing crazy. Just include the late fee. You don't even have to call. Just include the late fee and everything will be fine. And that's actually a relief to them. Literally across the board, every single lease signing I say that. I mean, that's like verbatim. I've done it so many times. They're relieved about that. And they include the late fee. It's amazing. They actually do it. So
you want to avoid this.
Yeah. So you want to avoid the delinquent, non-responsive resident that's not paying rent. if they're non-responsive, obviously, if you guys have had that, it's kind of that sinking feeling that we have. It's like, okay, they're not responding to my texts. They're not calling us. They're not communicating with us at all. This is where you want to have a plan for what you're going to do. But along this, even if this has been a really good citizen that's been paying rent and you've been sending them, they just had a baby and you send them a card, congratulations. You send them a gift card because they've been wonderful, and all these things. And you've kind of cultivated this, it is a relationship. You've kind of cultivated this. You still have to go by what the lease says. It's okay to be strict and to be professional and kind and friendly to them. And so if they're non-responsive, this is where letters come in handy. We have stock letters that are prepared that if they're delinquent, not paying rent, we're going to send them a letter and we're going to let them know what's going on. But we're also, if we're 3 days out, we all know what that means. Unfortunately, they're going to get a 3-day notice.
However, with the eviction, we're going to talk about that here in just a
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that here.
So you want to definitely avoid the belligerent, destructive resident. And with the market that we're coming into and the fluctuations that we're having, you may have an inherited resident that becomes belligerent and destructive. And so at that point, you need to have a plan. That same level of professionalism, don't let them let you get angry. Part of retaining good residents is keeping them from getting to that point. And we can honestly say we have had, when they hit step 3, we've been able to pull them back to step 1. When they hit step 4, we have not ever successfully brought them back to good citizenship, just in all honesty, full transparency.
And this is where you just want them to not destroy the property. So one of the strategies that maybe you guys have heard of, if you haven't, then we'll go ahead and share it, that is called cash for keys. This is when you've got a resident that's non-responsive and
potentially
destructive, or even you just don't want them to get to step 4.
Right.
They're at step 3, but you don't want them to get to step 4. We offer them cash for keys.
And we don't call it that.
We don't call it cash for keys.
We call it a
moving
stipend.
I don't know who came up with that. It's kind of like when I first heard of cash for keys, what? So we call it a move out stipend. And if you're, we say this is you've received a 3-day notice. If you can be out by this day,
and make it reasonable.
and we give them a day, give them a week, give them 2 weeks.
Usually on a weekend or something.
Yeah, on a weekend, by a Sunday night. Make it so that they can actually do it. Don't just say, you got 3 days, pal, you're out of here, or else, you lose your, but we'll pay you $250, $300, whatever the price point is. There's not an exact science to that, but whatever the price point is of the unit, we'll pay you this much if you're out by this day. And we do it. Absolutely. And that works wonderfully. Now, in this time, and I'm gonna fly through this because we have 8 minutes. Some of you may have heard the CDC moratorium that we cannot evict for non-payment of rent. Okay. If you haven't, I'm not going to get into it. Actually, Kathy was there. We did a talk on it at our meetup, and we spent like an hour and a half on it. So obviously, I can't get into it at the end. But you can actually get on, and I should have put it on here. I didn't put a link on here of where you can go, but just type in CDC rent moratorium and Google it, and you can find some forms on it. But here's some ways that you can kind of protect yourself in this time. This is until December 31st. We cannot evict due to non-payment of rent, okay? You can evict for other reasons, just for non-payment of rent. So one of the ways this is just suggestions, guys, suggestions of what you can do, is you can sign month-to-month leases.
So when you're filling your vacancies, be upfront with people, not in a bad way, but in an honest way that they might need flexibility in this crazy time.
Yeah.
So we're just doing month-to-month leases across
You can do month-to-month leases. If you've got somebody who is a non-payment of rent, you can set up an inspection and go in and take video and pictures of the place, obviously, so that you have documentation for what they
how they're treating the property. And yeah, thank you.
And what did I do here? There we go. And then have they violated the lease any other way? I mean, and that's, you know, we can't get into that because there's, you know, you don't bring that up with an attorney, right? Because that's not the goal here, is to get somebody out. But know that if they're holding your property hostage, there's probably something in the lease that they may be violating that you can evict them for.
And this
But
is
the
very
easiest way to
critical.
do it is just non-renew the lease. And you're going to be out 45 days, you know, of rent received or something like that, right? And that's just going to be the hit that you have to take unless you find a way to evict them, in which case, if you evict them, you're still 45 days out. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and stop screen sharing here. And then
Do you want to put the questions in the chat, and that way we can?
They can, yeah, well, it's set up in the security where they can unmute themselves. So if you're ready to open it up for questions, then we'll just open it up. My first question is, how long did it take you to put your systems together? It took me 20 years because I've been doing it for 20 years.
Forever and ongoing.
Ongoing, yeah.
But I have to say, we did have a fantastic mentor. We have always invested in our own education, and a lot of what we learned worked in our market, but every market is different.
Yes.
Yeah, we've really dialed it in, Kathy, I would say over the last 5 to 7 years. I would say 5 years probably. Really dialed it in, and every year we just are building on it. But yeah, we're right there with you. I made so many stupid mistakes in the beginning. Oh my gosh. I love telling the stories because people can't believe it. I mean, they're like,
bad.
You actually did that? Oh yeah, we did that.
It's
I was an idiot. So anyway.
So you want to avoid vacancies.
Yeah, it's definitely a learning curve. So, okay, questions, anyone? Jump in there.
Hey guys, Nate Roderick here. Thanks for for sharing with us. For someone who doesn't have any experience working with VAs, where would you recommend getting started and kind of starting to figure that out?
So with our VA, we started, we've actually used several VAs, both on Fiverr and people that we know personally. And it depends on what task you need to identify where your bottleneck is. What is slowing down the process of filling your vacancy? And obviously VAs can do other tasks, but our topic tonight is filling vacancies. So and plus our VA that's what we hired her for, was the filling vacancies.
Because this is a lot of the busy work goes with filling vacancies. You can put some time into this.
So
sure. But outside of someone though that you know, Fiverr is the only online platform that you've used?
Oh no.
Upwork is one.
Well, we've used Upwork and Fiverr. Those are the two that we've used. There's others, but those are the two that we've used and that we know.
Also, Facebook groups are a great place to find VAs that are already very knowledgeable of real estate. You want somebody that is trainable and has at least a working knowledge of what it is that you're doing. You also want to be very careful because right now there's a lot of strife in our nation. There are a lot of areas that are hateful to property owners and housing providers. So you really don't want someone who hates property owners to work for you. Like that seems really basic, but it's legit an issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, be very discerning when you hire a VA.
So, but do the actual platforms kind of facilitate that process? Is there a steep learning curve, or is it kind of a chaos?
Yeah, so you need to write out exactly what you want them to do. There's a lot of hand-holding initially. So just know that you want to have a specific job description, exactly what you want them to do, how much time you want them to spend on it. Pretend like they know nothing. If they have a working knowledge, fantastic, but know that many of them don't. But they can do the task. They can do this task. Like they can take phone calls or whatever it is. They can respond on Facebook Marketplace. That's a great one. Just hire somebody to respond, and you write out your response, and then you can send them the list of response. If they say this, then this. You know, and
copy paste.
There's only so many questions they're going to ask. And if they really throw them a curveball, I mean, you can have just a stock response for them. Like,
I'll have the office get in touch with
exactly,
you.
exactly. If
Something
there's
like
like
that.
one, they're like, I have no idea how to answer that question. So yeah, but if you do that, they can crush that for you.
What
Okay,
type of
thank you.
what type of things do you have a VA do for you? What might your list look like?
So my VA right now, I just hired a new one. My other ones graduated in different life areas, so they needed to go on to their next jobs. And so my new VA, she is doing helping fill our 1-bedroom flat vacancy. She is, we call her our resident care coordinator, and that is her title. And she is remote. She's in Atlanta. And so she copies and pastes and goes through and sorts Facebook Marketplace so that they will go to the website and fill out the application. She answers questions, sends them links. If they have questions like about a pet policy, she'll copy the pet policy link from our website, send them there. Then after she sorts through that list, we have 5,000 views for one bedroom flat. Just numbers wise right now, we have actually it's close to 6,000. From that, we get about 250 applications. From that, we will show it probably 5 to 10 times. And from that, we will have our person. Sometimes we only show it once. Oh yeah, 4-hour work week. We love it. Yeah, that's awesome, Chris. Great suggestion.
Yep.
Tim Ferriss, 4-hour work week. It is dated and it is not real estate specific. We are advertising, and Dora's asking, we advertise primarily on Facebook Marketplace, but we also use Cozy to syndicate to realtor.com, doorsteps.com, and we do our own advertising within local Facebook groups, and we have a ton of referrals. Do not underestimate the power of live referrals from our current residents. We have a waiting list. We use MailChimp to do our waiting list. We automate that when we have a vacant unit. So we pretty much, and we also send letters to neighboring houses in the neighborhood, just introducing ourselves, letting them know that we have a vacancy. They're welcome to check it out online. They love to snoop, people, nosy neighbors.
And they also like to choose who's going to live next to them.
They also like to know who's living next
Those
to
are
them.
great referrals.
Those are awesome. And we do give gift cards for those kind of referrals.
Yeah.
We absolutely do. So, so our VA handles a lot of those responses. If they come in by email, if they come in by text, they all have to go through our website. We will not show a unit unless they fill out an application. And by the way, we really love that our application is free. We keep it free, and that's important for us as part of our business model.
Yep. Side note, you can have VAs skip trace for you, mine for deals for you. If the MLS blows up, which it's not right now, at least in our area, it's not, but it will. There are seasons. Having a VA mine for deals for you.
They can do the county auditor.
Yeah, they can do all kinds of stuff like that. We're not going to get into that.
No.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Okay. Do we charge for a background check? Yes.
Yes. Whatever the price is on the platform that you're using. But
we do not require a background check until they have already been screened, and we have an honesty policy. Had people lie to us twice out of like a bazillion residents. We make them do the background, credit, and rental history right before they get the keys. Like they are ready to move. They have been through the process. We've screened them, talked to their employers. They've submitted all their documents, no fees. The last step is they do the background, credit check, and rental history. And we've only twice had people lie to us. And they said, oh, I only have 1 felony. They had 5.
Let's see, did we miss any in the
more
chat?
Questions?
I think we've got them all there. Is there any other questions that you guys have? I know we're
a little over.
We're a little over, Kathy. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. As long as we just want to answer everyone's questions.
Hey, I had a quick question for you guys. About your, when you talked about the rent moratorium, being that today is what, the 3rd day of the month, have you experienced, or since I assume you have a large network of investors that you work with, do you have anybody that you know of that's experienced any rent problems? Anybody who's bringing up not going to pay that rent because of this?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so very little, almost none on our end. And investors, at least here in our area, have not, for whatever reason. Lancaster, it's just where we invest, and it's kind of where our network is here in Lancaster, Ohio, depending where you're at. We haven't had much of that. Now, I will tell you, in the Columbus area, in Franklin County, there may be somebody and folks in here that invest there. That's been a
Huge issue.
a huge issue.
And it does vary county by county how it's being handled.
Yep.
Well, thanks for your time, guys. I really appreciate all your presentation was awesome.
Great information. Anyone else have any questions?
Did they disconnect again?
I don't know. They're frozen, it looks like. So hang in there. Yep, don't go away in case they froze up. Yep, it looks like they froze. A little more on Ryan's question. I have 30 doors, and if you actually Google and read through the CDC moratorium, your tenants or your residents, they have to actually fill out, I'll call it like an affidavit that says that's why they can't pay their rent, is because they've lost their income due to COVID, and there has to be a direct relationship. And out of 30 doors, I don't have any that have used that particular the rent moratorium. So again, kind of like Kurt and Elizabeth, I don't see issues, but a lot of my properties are also in Lancaster. So for whatever reason, we seem to be good as far as that goes.
And
I
Kathy,
know some
renters did have COVID.
Yes, I did. I had a renter that did have COVID, and I asked them about paying their rent, and they said not a problem, that they'd had a little bit of reserve backed up, and they didn't want to have to pay it later because the moratorium doesn't eliminate their rent. It simply lets them pass it off until later. They still have to pay it, and they didn't want to have a big bill later, so they chose not to use that option. So, so far so good. You guys froze up for just a minute, Kurt and Elizabeth, but we see that you're back. So,
yep.
And I was worried. I'm worried about my connection too, because I'm actually on a hotspot on my cell phone.
Yeah, we're on our internet. I don't know what's going on. I guess it's just being finicky tonight.
Yep, it might be. It might be. Any other questions, comments?
Just one real quick. You talked a lot about your website. Would you mind letting us know what URL that is so we can take a look at it?
Sure. Here's my only request is I do ask that when we share it, we always want you to be authentically you. So please don't copy it because we've actually had people do that, and it's super confusing for our potential residents. So that I don't mind at all. I know you guys are all integrity filled people because you're with Kathy. So it's runningcreekproperties.com, and Kurt will put it in the chat.
Thanks. I've built plenty of websites, just not any real estate websites. I'm just now getting in. I don't even have one door, just my own house.
Sure.
But it's like all of this is a big giant learning experience for me, and I'm not in it to copy your website. I just want to get some good ideas. So I appreciate it.
We only had that happen once, and since then it was a learning experience all the way around. So
yeah,
I also have a website, so I'll toss mine in there just as a comparison. So
yeah,
mine is like totally different from theirs, and you can actually kind of take a look at both then, and just see how different we are, because I not only do long-term residential rentals, but I also have short-term rentals. I also have office building rentals, and I also have beauty salons. And so I have all of that on my website, and I put my link in the chat as well.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. And thank you guys for the presentation. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it was great. Yes.
Awesome.
Any other comments or questions? I love this time because a lot of times we have a question and somebody else will ask it. Sometimes we're afraid to jump in there. And Dora says, great presentation. It was, yes, definitely a great presentation.
Dora.
And Amanda says, thank you all so much. This was great.
Thank you, Amanda.
Well, we definitely wish you all very profitable business. Be ready for the market to shift, to expand, maybe take on some project residents that need some assistance and some training.
Yep.
And have those tools in place to be able to really succeed this year and have it be a positive thing, to take 2020 and say, no, we're going to win.
Yeah. Fortune always favors the bold.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I do want to mention that we do have a mastermind. If we have any folks in the group that are interested in connecting a little more personal on a one-on-one, we do have a mastermind group that we work with personally. We'll actually go out and take a look at some properties with you, and we'll take phone calls if you're stuck, if you're in the middle of, you know, what to do about a tenant situation, or what to do about other aspects of this business. I will take your calls and text and help you out as much as I can. Information for that is in the Kathy Benner International Academy. And so I'm going to post that as well in the chat. And it's just another tool in your toolbox. So there's all kinds of tools out there. And I know that Kurt and Elizabeth also have a program. And tell us, what is your program?
So we also have a mastermind as well, and we've done some individual coaching as well. The mastermind is brand new. We're just starting and just launching it, and it's designed for anybody who's wanting to take their business to the next level, whatever that may be. You could be if you're just starting out, but you're walking through properties, you're in the hunt, you're analyzing deals, things like that. Then you're definitely, you know, this is something that will work for you. Or if you're in a more advanced and you've been doing it for a long time. So that's kind of the realm for that one. Yeah,
we do actually work with 3 other investors. So it's a little bit different because we tag team with them. And they also, one is Chad Harris. He is specializes in private and creative financing. And Chris Mayfield is a wholesaler. So it's actually 3 households that are going to be doing this. So super fun and a wide variety.
I love it. I love it. We're more geared for the beginner. So if we have some folks that have not, as I want to say, pulled the trigger yet and bought their first property, we're out there to help those that haven't even done anything yet, because we're all after the beginner. I work with Stephanie Wave. She's on the call. She's right there.
Phenomenal presentation. Hi there.
Thank you.
Yes, it was a great presentation. Stephanie, how many folks do we have in our mastermind that are actually in a deal? I think we have about 15 folks in our mastermind, and I think we currently have, what, 8 deals going, something like that?
That's correct. And we're winding down. Elise will be closing her first one on Monday or Tuesday. And this year, 2020, starting between March and now, there have been a dozen closings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And I could be wrong by 1 or 2, the number. Yes, absolutely. And we've gone through everything you can imagine, from the absolute beginner. We've had deals like with Adrian, who finally closed, that took 5.5 months for that to happen. Other cash transactions have taken as little as 4 days. We've had appraisals come in, you know, upwards of $10,000 and $12,000 low. We've had things blow up at the end. Things go smoothly. It's just been phenomenal. It's all been such a great learning experience. And gosh, so I'm Stephanie Jenkins with Remax Connection, and I have Stephanie Jenkins Home Group. And boy, my group, Kyle and I love assisting with Kathy. And it's really, goodness, people that are experienced investors like Tom and Laura, they are learning right along just with the beginners. There's always something new to learn. And this year has created unbelievable challenges, plus wealth, plus growth. It's really been a phenomenal, unique year.
Yeah, and we're excited. We can't wait to see what 2021 has to offer. We're anxious to continue to move forward. So we really appreciate everyone that's on this call. And so please feel free to connect either with myself, with Stephanie, with Kurt, with Elizabeth. If you have some questions, or, you just want to run something past someone, feel free to connect, because there's certainly enough business for everyone. And our whole goal is that we all reach that freedom number so that we can have the freestyle life that we want to have, whatever that means for you. For me, I'm at my tiny little house in Florida, checking on a new condo I just made an offer on. So yeah, so that's what freestyle living means for me. We're checking out airports tomorrow. Yes, folks, Mark owns his own airplane, and we're checking out airports tomorrow to see which airport is closest to the new condo that we've made an offer on. So, and again, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that you can have the freestyle life that you want to have, whatever that means for you. And that's what I want to encourage you to take, that next best step, whatever that is. And it might be something as small as starting to look. Maybe you haven't even started to look to see if this was a possibility for you. For some of you, it's what I like to say, pulling the trigger on that first deal. And for some of you, it's deciding that you're going to create some systems so that you can free up some of your time so that you can do more of this. And but it's an exciting ride, no matter where you are in the process. And just know that we all started just like you, punching that time clock and wishing that we could have a different kind of lifestyle. We all started right there. And so hang in there. We're really glad that you were with us this evening. I see a couple of more things in the chat. Let me just check and see. We have a question. Does anyone do joint ventures? Vince is asking that question. Anyone in the group do joint ventures? Kurt and Elizabeth, you don't do any? Okay. I see Derek's on the call. I know he's done a few. I don't know if he's ready to jump in. It's good to see Derek. He's waving. Okay. I don't think we have some in the Happy House Hunter group that does joint ventures, but they are not on the call this evening. But we do have some in the group. So you might want to go to the Happy House Hunters Facebook page and simply post the question there. And again, there's enough business for everyone. I will plug another Facebook group, is the Cream. If some of you folks have not been on CREAM, I know if you post there about joint ventures, you'll get some information. And then Kurt and Elizabeth also have a Facebook group called Profit for Real Estate. So there's all kinds of groups you can connect with. And again, the tide rises all ships. So as we all grow in this business, we can all help each other. So any other additional questions before we go? This has been a great presentation. Thank you so much.
It's been amazing. I just have one question for Kurt and Elizabeth. In terms of the number of doors, the number of rentals that you fill with your residents, did you have an idea in mind of how many, and are you there?
Who is the question for?
For Kurt and Elizabeth.
Okay.
Okay, so we froze at the very beginning of that question. So could you just repeat the beginning? Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I don't know what's going on.
Did you have an idea in mind 4 years ago? Oh gosh, I'd like to have 10 residents or 5 or 3. And are you there yet? Did you have an idea?
Yeah.
So we started with 6 when he left.
We started with 6. We had another business, actually. We did financial consulting, and we wanted to build real estate, but that was actually doing quite well. And then it wasn't. So I can tell you that ours is a cash flow goal. It's not so much a unit goal. So at one point in our business, we did have a unit goal. And then, and I caution new investors, especially, I did this crazy thing of reaching and paying way too much money for a cruddy property that I still own today. My theory is if you hold it long enough, it'll actually be the right decision, right? It'll start to pay for itself. But anyway,
it's called our teaching house.
Yeah,
it teaches us things.
But that goal of a unit goal for me specifically meant that I reached for properties to reach the unit goal. And so we made it about cash flow. And so we're always resetting the goal. So at first it was to replace the income that we had lost, right? I'd left UPS, and then the financial consulting, it didn't pan out the way that we expected. Sometimes that happens. And so it was to replace that. And we did that. And then we said, okay, well, let's reset that goal. And so that's kind of what we keep doing. I don't know when that stops.
I'm a
we
little
have-
concerned about
we have
this
other
problem that we
passions.
have.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of buying real estate,
And
but
coming home and saying, honey, I bought a house.
but we have other things that we also are passionate about, and so we want to get to the point to where we're big enough that we can pass off some things if we want to pursue other things. So, but we're really happy with how it's gone.
And
Yeah.
I think that we have to say everybody's got a different place that they want to be and a different speed. The market really determines that. And we did 17 turns or acquisitions in 15 months with a newborn. So
Wow.
we don't recommend that. Please don't ever do that.
It was wonderful.
And I'm the turtle, and I grow very slowly. I've grown my portfolio over a 20-year period. So it depends. It's different for everybody. It's what's right for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Please.
By some people's standards, we grew really slow.
Yeah. We had people tell us that.
Yeah. So, it just depends on what you're comfortable doing and where you're at and what your goals are. It's huge.
Okay, I think we've probably covered most of the questions. I don't see anything else in the chat. Amanda had to run, so she jumped off. I want to thank everybody for coming. Again, we put some information in the chat. I'll just wait a second or two. If you want to open up your chat and take a screenshot of that, it'll give you some of those links. I'll also, this is a recording that I will post on our Happy House Hunters Facebook page in the units section. So anybody wants to listen to the replay, you can find it in the Happy House Hunters Facebook group in the units section. And I'll also email it out to our mailing list. And so Kurt and Elizabeth, I will send you a link to that as well. If you want to use it in any of your material, you're welcome to do that. So with that, I want to say thanks everybody for coming. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what we're going to do next. So happy house hunting, folks. Everybody wave.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
See you later.
Kurt and Elizabeth. Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.